How is everyone doing today? Welcome to episode 4 of Dab. So, with it being the winter season and it getting a lot colder, oh man, I'm out of focus. With it being the winter season and getting colder, I wanted to do an episode on global warming and how it's basically just a giant political hoax, political fraud. It's just a grab for political power. This is something that originated in the 70s with, I believe, Al Gore. I think he was the main politician who pushed this. Or he was at least one of the major political figureheads in the public eye. And basically all it is it's a grab for political control, because saying vote for me or die is not as convincing as backing it with science. A lot of the data is manipulated. You can look at, for example, ClimateGate in 2009, where scientists were destroying a data. Basically, emails were leaked where they were exposed for pushing their studies through, pushing the data through to get ahead of time of some political meeting on what to do about climate change. And they were exposed that they were destroying the original data just to hide it. In late November 2009, more than 1,000 emails between scientists. Here, let's find it. Factcheck.org. Late November 2009, more than 1,000 emails between scientists at the Climate Research Institute of the UK's University of East Anglia were stolen and made public by an as yet unnamed hacker. Climate skeptics, our enemies are claiming this, are claiming they show scientific misconduct that amounts to complete fabrication of the man-made global warming. Well, that's not entirely true. It's just one specific point of the data was entirely fabricated and completely made up just to push this political idea. And something I wanted to bring up that I think most people aren't aware of, and this is very hard to find. If you Google search this is a heavily filtered search. It's very obvious that they're doctoring this. Sorry, me being blurry is really gonna bother me. Let me fix this first. Let's see. It's not autofocus. That's why. It's garbage. There we go. Oh, much better. So this is a heavily filtered search. You have to actually go to the image search for a very non-specific term. I think I searched NOAA adjustment raw. I think that was the search. To get to this blog, but what they did was they took raw data from NASA, because they offer database files on this sort of thing, and all he did was graph it. So if you look, this is one graph. You can see the actual measured temperatures are up here, and the adjustments are down here. They adjust for different reasons. Could be location of the temperature probe, that kind of thing. And then you look in the end here. No, that's actually the wrong one. This one, here it is. So this is the final data minus the raw data. What they do is they measure temperature, they adjust it for whatever reason, and then they post those other temperatures. So you can see in 1900, they're going about down 1 degree Fahrenheit. 1960, a little less. Then about 1970, up until 1970, this is all about within margin. 1970, they start increasing, until about now, they're increasing it a whole degree above what the actual measurements were. And you look at what the current science says about global warming is temperatures have increased about half a degree Celsius. Well, half a degree Celsius is about 1 degree Fahrenheit. You look at this graph and it makes you think, well, if they're bumping up temperatures a degree and temperatures have changed a degree, makes me kind of doubt that temperatures are even changing at all. And I'm not saying that, climate can't be changed or it can't be affected by humans, or many things. I'm just saying that these specific measurements are clearly fabricated. There's this graph, percent of USHCN monthly data which is fabricated. This is very interesting. Almost anyone who believes in global warming, or even people who don't believe in it, no one is talking about this in the political debate. It is extremely interesting and important. It has to do with how NASA collects data on global temperature. They don't own research facilities all over the world. They don't own thousands and thousands and thousands of stations. What they do is they partner with stations to collect this data for them. And what they do is they kind of poll them every month. They ask them, hey, what is your average temperature for this month? Tell me X, Y, Z about what you've measured. And of course, because everything's complicated, not every station responds. So if you were a scientist and you were trying to, get hard concrete data and someone doesn't respond, what would you do? Would you average data out? Would you estimate it? Well, there is no procedure. They just completely make it up. So this graph is showing the percentage of facilities of data that is not reporting. So 1970 is about 10%. You can assume before then it was about 10%. A little spike, but you can see there's a very clear trend of about 10% of facilities not reporting. Maybe they missed the email, maybe they weren't available to record for whatever reason. Up until 2010s, about a quarter. And then you get into about 2015, and almost half of all climate data is just made up. Now, if you are averaging data at about 10, even 20%, that's significant. That's arguable. But when you get up to around 50% of data just completely being made up, it really isn't a settled science. Here they actually look at the data between reported temperatures and actual the made up numbers. You can see in 1970 there's a lot of chaos here because they are just making up numbers. It's very random, but you can see the difference. 1970 it's pretty low, and it's pretty average. It's kind of wild. But 1970, 1980s, 1990s, you're looking at anywhere from a 0 to about a 2.5 degree difference between the actual measured data and the made up data. So that's kind of average. And then you get into the 2010s and boom, it shoots up 4 degrees Fahrenheit difference. So you get into the 2010s, or let's go back to 1970s. You go to the 1970s, pretty much all stations are reporting data. 90% plus of stations are reporting data. Your final numbers are basically what you're measuring. And if you can't find the data, you're basically averaging with everyone else. This is a big scale global temperatures. Compare that to the 2010s. 50% of data is completely made up. That 50% of data is up to 5 degrees or more, because it's an average, 4 degrees higher than the rest of the measured temperatures. And on top of that, they're pretending like this is the same thing. This is just graphing it against CO2. This, they kind of show a comparison of how pre-adjustment, post-adjustments, how you can see the Earth is actually cooled since, when is this starting? 1930s. You can see it was hotter in 1930 than it was today by, about half a degree. But then you look at their adjustments, and you can see they've actually plotted it as about a quarter of a degree, or less than a quarter degree. They basically made the difference go away. This shows how manipulating data can really make them, they can, what's the saying? If you torture the numbers enough, they'll say what you want. And when you're cutting out half the actual measurements, the other half you're making them say what you want, you really are torturing the numbers and making them say what you want. So why are they doing this? Well, I guess the political backing of science is the goal. Of course, NASA, if they pander to a political party or are controlled by one, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds. They're going to say what their funders tell them to. And in case their funders are the federal government, This is probably the nail that really convinced me that this is just a giant political stunt. It's also a way to politicize, small talk. Something I noticed. The weather is one of the most basic things you can talk about with someone you know nothing about. And it's really just a way to politicize it. I've gone up to talk to people, and like, first time I see them in life, I say half a sentence, and they open with, like, global warming. I'm like, really? That was a little weird. I'm just trying to make small talk not get political. It jumps from small talk to being political. Really not good. So you can find this realclimatescience.com/2018/03 NOAA -data-tampering-approaching #2 or -2 -5 -degrees. And I'll just see if I can blow this up for you guys. Or actually, no, I'll go to tinyurl. Make you guys a tinyurl for this. So if you want to go here, you can go to tinyurl.com/ybluc3cu. I'll see if I can put a link for that in the description. Because Google's filtering this data. I searched specifically for this page using keywords, and it is completely filtered from web results. Oh man, I've been doing this whole thing with the wrong headline. There we go. Climate hoax. After I'm already done with the segment. But yeah, Google completely filtered this result from their results. I had to go to their image search, which is different, and then I was able to find one of these graphs and show it to you guys. So spread that around. I might make some memes. It's Christmas, obviously, so I have the nice Christmas hat from the dollar store. It is made out of the thinnest felt that China makes. Got to be a little festive, though, for all my... have to be inclusive to all my Festivus celebrators. With their Festivus poles. I don't think I have a Actually, no, I have multiple Festivus poles. They're holding up my green screen, they're holding up my lights, they're holding up my camera. I'm down with the Festivus. So let's see what happened over the weekend. I did not open this. There's over 300 articles. Police brutality. Don't care. Fire them. Carjacking. Body slam again. Nearly 200 evangelical leaders slammed Christianity today. Op-ed that criticized Trump. That sounds reasonable. Oh, Kaepernick made some sneakers. Big hitting news. What is the not subtle message? I'm genuinely curious. Nike made them. They're probably overpriced. They have his face on the back. That's just ugly. That is just ugly. They look like platform shoes. 08, 14, 16. What's that? Oops. No. Search. Is it a debate day? The date marks the first time Kaepernick didn't stand during the playing in the national anthem. Oh man, that is... I can feel the edge of those shoes. Blah blah blah. The Trump administration is hiding something. Okay, so CNN doesn't have anything interesting. Vox. State Department opposes a bill that resettle refugees in the U.S. Yeah, we accepted 0 refugees. I forget if it was that last year or this year, which is great. especially from conflicts we're not involved in. Amazon warehouse workers walked off job in protest. That's something I can agree with. Amazon does treat its workers poorly. Same with Walmart. A lot of these large corporations. People like to say we have capitalism in America. We really don't. We have corporatism. We have large corporations lobbying the government, and profiting off the taxpayer. There's an article a couple years ago. Walmart was assisting its employees in getting food stamps. Or, no, it was holding food drives for its employees. It really shows you where their priorities are. And not supporting these big companies is really important. Even though I order stuff from Amazon all the time. An easier solution would be use the government. Stop giving them all these benefits, all these loopholes. Make them pay more income tax. Make them pay better wages. Because they're one of the biggest companies in America. And they pay their employees very low. They really need to pass those wages down. Biden hands out Christmas gifts at border camp. Let's see. That's not Biden. Migrant camp. Asylum seekers. Is this going to show anything? See, I bet you a lot of these people aren't from Mexico, because the new law is if you're from a country and you can't pass through another country to get to America. The new asylum law is you have to apply for asylum in the first country you get to once you leave that country. So it stops people jumping countries to just get to America. You can't do that anymore. There we go. So I don't know what all these people camping out are doing. You're supposed to go from... I have no idea with Central South American geography, so I can't use specific examples. So I don't know what they're doing there. They're going to get denied. Maybe they're there for media appearance, but yeah, you can't do that anymore. You have to apply from the first country with an embassy, basically. So yeah, they can't camp out and attempt to apply anymore. U.S. is not an advanced society. Oh man. I wonder. She's gonna say racism, kids in cages, trans, devolving into a fascist country. This ain't it, Chief. Yeah, we have a Democrat in office, and she's calling him fascist. We need a loving society. We need to let everyone in. Everyone is allowed in. No limits. If you want to come in, you're allowed to come in. And we need to pay for everything. We need to pay for your housing, your college, your healthcare. No limits. Oh yeah, well of course she's at a Bernie rally. Who's saying the same thing. We're living right now, it's fascism. Nature's fascist. You ever seen the video of zebras at a watering hole? And I don't know if it's an alligator or crocodile, but it sneaks up on them. And it literally rips its guts out. And you see the zebra running with no guts. And then it falls over and then they eat it. That's nature. All this nice stuff we have, running water, electricity, a mostly peaceful society. That doesn't exist in nature. And we're lucky to have it. You know, the supermarket down the street, you get to show up at a building and do stuff that doesn't matter, and you get this a non-existent number in your bank account, and then you go deplete that number at a store for resources. That doesn't exist everywhere. Try doing that in most of Africa. It won't work out too well for you. This is bothering me. Let me fix this. Oh, whoops. What is going on? Oh. There we go. No more cursor. Yeah. A lot of these like policies these politicians are pushing, they're depending on people's ignorance of what the world is like. Most people don't research what the rest of the world is like. They assume the rest of the world is like America or Europe. They don't even know what the Middle East is like. They don't know what even Israel's like. They have checkpoints everywhere. Like in America, you can go from California to New York, and they're gonna check your driver's license and ask you if you have any fruit in your car. In Israel, they have checkpoints like within a state. I mean, it's a smaller country, but yeah, they have much more stringent checks. You can't just drive everywhere you want in Israel without going through a lot of checkpoints and getting searched. Media want Trump reelected so he can keep going mental every night. That's an interesting theory. She's been right about stuff before. She's been right on stuff years in advance, or been right on stuff for years. That might be true. Hong Kong police repress protests against, I don't know how to pronounce that, Uyghur concentration camps. Yeah, yeah. People don't even know what China's like. Like, we have these Democrats saying, "Oh yeah, Cuba and China, they're so great. They're communist and socialist." I was listening to NPR today. They were talking about China, like, "Oh, they're not capitalist. This is so great." Yeah, they have political concentration camps. They have work camps. If you publicly or even on the internet disagree with their policies, they'll come to your house and arrest you and put you in a work camp. China, in a lot of ways, is similar to North Korea. It's just bigger. And they're slightly nicer to their citizens. A disastrous decade for abortion. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Really, it's not a federal issue, it's a state issue. I mean, whether you agree or disagree with it, it's a state issue, 10th Amendment. A lot of these laws shouldn't, they're not federal arguments over the Constitution. Like Roe v. Wade, why was that even decided? It's a state issue. We need a court case that reaffirms the 10th Amendment, and then the federal government is going to dissolve overnight. Everything but the Congress, the military, the IRS is just going to go away because of the 10th Amendment. Cage lizards. Why is that an article? 8 inmates of South Carolina prisons, 3 of whom were blood gang members, have been charged in a sextortion ring that made them at least $144,000 through their solicitation of huff money from victims. So what, were they raping people and extorting them with that? Let's see, 8 inmates. 8. They targeted military men through dating apps. That had been wow, that's quite the operation. Smuggled into prisons. They targeted military men using cell phones smuggled into prisons. They pretended to be women, sending nude photos. They would then pretend to be the father and other age girl and threaten to call the police because the victims soliciting photos from minors. Oh, that's a common scheme on Reddit, the legal advice thread. There's like, it happens at least weekly or once every couple of weeks. There's a thread. Someone's like, "Oh, I was flirting with this girl, and then she sent me nudes, and she said it was 18, and then her father got on the chat and said, 'Give me money or I'll report you to the police.'" Common scam. Very common scam. 8 men have accepted more than 70 fraudulent money transfers. Actually, this is what I mean when I say prisoners are like, of course there's the dumb ones, but they're smart criminals. A lot of them are. 70 transfers. So let's see. They made about $18,000 each. And they did about 10 each. Sorry, one second. Let me take a break. that's a. If you're in prison and you have access to cell phones, that's actually very clever. At least 12 other people have been charged. 400 members of military. Wow. Total scheme netted $560,000 to 8 inmates and their accomplices outside the prison. Yeah. They have these gang members like, hey, you're in prison. We'll get you a cell phone. Just start scamming people. Just start scamming people and give us the money. Ah, man. 222. That's pretty interesting. I haven't heard of that before. Baba Ram Das, spiritual guru and LSD pioneer, dies at 88. Florida boy 3 killed in hit and run crash was sitting in passenger's lap. Yeah. Cars are a lot more dangerous than people pretend. I'm sure they're in them every day, but oh man. These like auto braking features are kind of preventing natural selection. They have people tailgating at 60 miles an hour on the freeway and then they crash and they get saved from their own stupidity. I mean, it's a good thing lives are being saved. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying society is saving idiots from themselves. Obama tells big money Dem donors to back Warren if she wins. I honestly think Warren's she's one of the leaders of the Democratic nominations. I think Bernie, he has the support of the people. Bernie definitely has the support of the people, because he says the most great lies about what he's going to be able to do. Warren is probably the next best one. She's more reasonable. She's more of a mainstream Democratic candidate. Tulsi Gabbard, I think she's kind of shaking up the boat a little bit. She's calling out a lot of things Hillary and other Democrats have done, which works in her favor, definitely. And then who else? Biden's just the most known because he was the vice president for 8 years. But there's too much dirt on him. There's too many bad things you can say about Biden. There's not much that he can shield himself from. Like Trump, they've slung all their arrows. Oh, he grabs women by the pussy. Like, no one cared. They said that before the election. He won. They keep saying it. No one cares. I remember this stereotype shot at Buttigieg on climate change. Why aren't you stronger? Who is the most left wing? Who believes in climate change, trans rights, and importing anyone who wants to come over the most? That is the fight. Daily Caller. Nothing yet. Wow, they don't put out too many articles. Canadian may spend Christmas trapped in Dubai, framed after exposing Arab corruption. Yeah, who does this stuff? I heard on NPR there was some journalist. They got executed in the Middle East. And it was funny because they say, the CIA confirmed this government had did it. It's like, oh, he was probably a spy. Who goes to the Middle East as a journalist to expose corruption and doesn't expect to die? That's just... You're kind of an idiot if you do that. That's like going to China and just speaking openly on like whatever messenger service. Oh yeah, I found this corruption and this and blah 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 blah. Oh, this person did this and this and this and this and I hate the Chinese government. Like, no, they're gonna pull up and arrest you and kill you in a van. Have you heard of their execution vans? They'll pull up in a van and just straight up execute people in them. 6-year-old discovers plea from Chinese prisoners in the Christmas card. Yeah. That's what China's like. China's not good. You have so many people thinking it's good. Yeah, in America, you're never going to find a plea from a slave on your Christmas card. Pensacola shooter isn't the only U.S.-trained foreign soldier who became a terrorist. Yeah, a lot of terrorists aren't U.S.-trained. They're internally FBI trained. see if we can get this. Oh, nope, nope. I'm not going to get no script for that. I don't care. Al Jazeera. China hosts Japan and South Korea as regional tensions simmer. That's good. Turkey in talks with Russia as thousands flee bombing in Syria. Yeah. Russia has very, very big foreign interests in the Middle East because they're geographically connected. Nothing good. Boeing fires their CEO because 300 people died in 2 plane crashes of their 737. Yeah, a lot of computer systems on these things are bad. A lot of airlines, they use Windows 95 for a lot of their systems because it still works. It just works. They don't want to touch it. It's working. We're not going to touch it. And it's running Windows 95 on modern airplanes. And that should freak people out. Not secure. Could be buggy. I mean, it's been in service for years, but corruption just builds up over time in little amounts until something big happens, like a plane crashing. Now, these are their newer generation ones. They probably aren't running Windows 95. Probably Windows 10, but still, don't put Windows on an airplane. I was reading on Reddit. Apparently, the VA, they use DOS for their pharmacy system, which is horrible. DOS, really? What is that? When did DOS come out? I can't remember when DOS came out. It's pretty old. It's the non-graphical Windows predecessor. Initial release 1981. Final release 2000. The last release of DOS was 20 years ago, and the VA is still using it for their pharmacy systems. That's embarrassing. Yeah, a lot of these legacy systems need to go away. Linux is a lot better. BBC politics, a lot of it's so boring. Government prepared to take further steps in over racism in football. They already have hate crime laws, hate speech laws. What was that guy? So what happened? So in Britain, if you're not aware, they have rape gangs. They have foreign immigrants who are coming into the country and just grooming and raping tons of little girls. Huge amounts of little girls. It's insane. It's literal gangs of guys working together in organized crime to do this. There's one story where 2 fathers found out where their daughters were kidnapped. They're being kidnapped as sex slaves to one of these gangs. They break into the house, they rescue their daughters, and they report it to the police. And do you want to take a guess at what happened here? Do you think the UK government, do you think the police rolled up and immediately executed the guys? Do you think they arrested the guys and gave them a trial and convicted them for this? And congratulated the guys for being heroes on taking some of the worst scum of society and reporting it to the police? You would be wrong. What actually happened was the fathers were arrested for trespassing, and nothing happened to the perpetrators. Let's see if I can find this. See if I can find this. Skeptics.stack exchange. Why is this here? Fathers tracked their daughter and tried to remove their spouses where they're being abused, only to be arrested themselves, and the police were called to the scene. A small number of cases were already received media attention. The victims were arrested for the offenses such as breach of peace or being drunk and disorderly, with no action taken against the perpetrators, rape and sexual assault against her. So the reports does not confirm whether it was Muslim rapists or foreigners, what type of abuse, the names of the victims, names of arrestees, or what they were arrested for. So yeah, there's nothing disproving that narrative. It's very non-specific. There was one conservative reporter. He got arrested for being outside the courtroom when one of these rapists was being sentenced. Let's see. And that's pretty famous. What's his name? Is it Tommy Robinson? I can't remember. Let's see. UK. Yeah, Tommy Robinson arrested after trying to film Muslims outside court. Yeah, it was Tommy Robinson. Far right, yeah. Let's see if we can find the video of him. Nope. Ah, there we go. Let's go to my channel. There's me. Can we find the clip of him outside? Yeah, he's literally outside the courthouse. I think he had a live stream. He's outside the courthouse live streaming. See, this is also a filtered result. You would expect it to be activists jailed for... I don't even know what you would say. The government's shielding these people in Britain. They're shielding these pedophiles. That's why they arrested him. They're having a closed-door hearing of a pedophile grooming and raping little girls, and he was streaming it to bring attention to, hey, the government's defending this. And then they arrested him for it. Huckle, a freelance photographer from Ashford, Kent, has pled guilty to 71 charges of sexual offenses against 23 children between 6 months and 13 years from an impoverished Christian community in the Malaysian capital. Huckle posed as a Christian philanthropist and teacher to gain access. Sentencing at Old Bailey. What was his sentence? What's this guy's sentence? It probably wasn't the death penalty. Life in prison. Oh, wow. Really? Life in prison? That's it? 71 counts of pedophilia? Oh, okay. Whoa. Oh, okay. I was worried for a second. On October 13th, 2019, Huckle was stabbed to death in his cell at Full Sutton. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess they technically did give him a death sentence with that kind of rap sheet. Life in prison. But yeah, a lot of these gangs in Britain, they're being let free, not prosecuted. Just, swept under the rug. So what steps over racism in football are they going to take? Because, okay, in American sports, yeah, people fight, people break stuff. A lot of crazy stuff happens. In Britain, they're a little more crazy. Let's see. This is this is the Millwall Brick. They're so crazy. People bring like weapons to these games to kill people on the enemy team. I know people say football is like, oh, we need we have this innate tribalism and we need football to fill that gap. They're straight up taking it to the extreme where they're killing the other tribesmen. They would bring weapons, ceramic, what do you call it? Cup holders, like any sort of weapon they can sneak in to just fucking stab people, hit it over the head. So they developed this. It's called the Millwall Brick. I can show you how to make one. Let me grab a I don't think I have a piece of paper. I have a cloth. I can show you the basic concept. So you get your newspaper, and you're gonna roll it up, like this. You're just gonna roll it up. You roll it up so you have a tube of newspaper, and you're gonna fold it in half, and you strike people with it like this. Because right here, it's extremely hard. It's a bludgeoning weapon. That's the Millwall brick, and they would do it with the funny section of the funny comic section of newspapers. Yeah, they're a little crazy when it comes to their football games, to the point where they're inventing new weapons that can't be confiscated, because you can't confiscate every newspaper and everything and search every single person. They're inventing new weapons to murder the other fans with. So that the people are literally killing each other. They might be a little racist about things. That doesn't surprise me too much. Seems a little low on the priority list when people are murdering each other in the parking lot and stands over this. Rugger heard monkey noises from crowd. That's funny. The Professional Football Association called for government inquiry following alleged abuse. Stepped up their efforts. Work with the police. Yeah, because Britain doesn't have freedom of speech. America has mostly freedom of speech. You can't call to action to violence. You can't call anything that would cause harm to people. Like yelling fire in a crowded theater is the most common example. You can't say, let's go get that guy and do stuff. You can't say that, because that's a call of action to violence. You can say, oh, I want us to get that guy. That is somewhat defensible, but you can't say, let's get that guy. In Britain, they don't have freedom of speech. They have hate speech laws. So does Canada. America is the only country in the world without hate speech laws, and those are actually being pushed. If you offend someone, you can be thrown in jail in a lot of countries. Jordan Peterson got famous because I can't remember if it was a campus. No, I think it was a legal law from the police that if there's a transgender person and you didn't use their preferred pronouns, that you could be thrown in jail. He got famous for saying, no, I'm not going to do that. That's just one example. And you think, like, if offending someone is going to get you thrown in jail, just imagine until they reach out with political speech. It's really on the slippery slope to living in a world like China, with the murder bans and the camps and all that kind of stuff. This is really... this is more of funny, if anything. That guy heard monkey noises. He's white. He's offended by that. Racism increased since the Brexit referendum. Oh. See, when you do these articles, you're just empowering them. Just got to ignore that kind of stuff. It's like, don't feed the trolls. That's literally what it is. They're just messing with you, and you're saying, these guys are making monkey noises. They hurt my feelings, and the government and police need to arrest them and throw them in a box. Wrong County Work 2019 was the most U.S. mass murders ever. Yeah, I would expect a correlation of mass murders and gang violence and the opiate crisis. There were 200 victims and 41 mass killings this year. Most people don't know this. The definition of a mass shooting is more than 4 people dying. When you hear the term mass shooting, you think, 10 people died, 15, 40, 100 people died. No. Mass shooting is 4 people. The most mass shootings actually happen in Chicago with all the gang violence. Pretty much all mass shootings are gang violence. But they're not reported on the media because it's not quite the spectacle. The media doesn't care if kids are dying. They care that it's a spectacle and they can actually bump their numbers up and sell more ads. Most people forget that. They kind of like it when kids are dying from mass shootings because they make money from it. 2006 with 38. So it hasn't increased much. It's gone up by 3. And to be fair, 200 people dying in mass shootings is not very many. About 3,000 people die a year from choking death on food. What is it? 60,000? How many people die in car crashes? 37,000. With 100 people dying from car crashes a day. In 10 days, more veterans commit suicide than people are killed in mass shootings. And I'm not saying that's more important. I'm just saying these are points of comparison of this. If you want to compare like lives saved from firearms, it's an insane number. There's something like 5 million crimes or more stopped by firearms each year, because most are not reported. There's plenty of stories. You can ask most people who live in bad sides of towns. You can look these up online. There's tons of stories of, shady people following someone at night. Turns around, all they'd have to do is flash, "Hey, I'm carrying a gun," and other guys go, "Oh shit, I'm not gonna rob this guy because I don't want to get shot." And of course, he's not gonna report it to the police because they're just gonna give him trouble for it. He's gonna be like, "Oh, police, yeah, these guys, they're wearing this at this time at this night, and I showed them my gun," and then they go, "All right, we're on the way," and they arrest him for brandishing a weapon or something. So people don't want to report it to the police because they're just going to give them more trouble. That happens all the time. Home invasions, armed home invasions, people defending themselves with firearms. Tons of, what was the number of lives? Obama funded a study to see how many lives were saved by guns a year because they wanted to, obviously twist it. And it didn't show what he wanted, so he literally made a law that, he changed the regulations so they can't study it anymore. I'll probably rehash this all tomorrow, is the main story. I think it was 2011. Yeah, suicides don't matter. Regulations bar the CDC from conducting original research of the defensive use of firearms. After Sandy Hook in 2012, Obama issued an executive order allowing the agency to review existing studies on causes and ways to reduce gun violence. As to the defensiveness of guns, CDC said studies that directly address the effective actual defensive use of guns, where it was used by attacking or threatening, found consistently lower injury rates among gun-using crime victims compared to those victims who used other self-protective strategies. Yeah. A lot of people think, like, oh, I'm going to carry a knife for self-defense. That's a bad idea. It's a threatening item, sure. But if they have a knife, it's a reach weapon. You're going to get cut, and they're also going to get cut. It's a bad idea. Even if you practice martial arts, you're kind of on a more level playing ground because you can defend against a knife strike and you know how to and you've practiced. But for your average Joe Schmo, it's a really bad idea. Firearms are even though they're harder to obtain, harder to get the licensing, it's a much safer route. Next best bet would be pepper spray because it's a ranged weapon. A knife is a last resort. Defensive guns are at least as common as offensive by criminals. Yeah, because people are only going to use them defensively when people are assaulted by criminals. I don't buy that. It's going to be more defensive than offensive because criminals use knives also. Or numbers. Because you have a gun, it doesn't matter if they're if you have a knife, 3 guys are going to intimidate you. It doesn't matter if you have a knife and they're unarmed. You're going to get the shit kicked out of you and probably killed. They have knives, you're not winning that at all. You have a gun, they don't stand a chance. Alright. Ranging from this is defensive firearm usage. It includes brandishing and not firing, and firing to protect yourself. 500,000 to 3 million per year in the context of about 300,000 violent crimes involving firearms. So there was 300,000 violent crimes where people that happened in general. And the minimum is 500,000, including crimes that were prevented. Up to 3 million, because criminals don't commit a crime once. They're normally serial offenders. So Obama said, hey, CDC, investigate this. And they said, all right, here are the numbers. And he's like, all right, don't investigate that anymore. We got to ban these studies. No more research. You're not allowed. It makes me look bad. And then this is a good book, More Guns, Less Crime. Very, very good book. More people should read. Yeah, because most people are basically good. Most people just want to work. They want to save money. They want to pay the bills. They want to raise their kids. Most people aren't political. That's why, was it 40% of America voted? Most people just don't give a shit. Most people don't care. They want to pay their bills. They want to eat. They want to sleep. Buy a new car, have some fun every once in a while. And they gravitate towards different hobbies. But, you live in a bad side of town and you don't care about politics. The logical solution is to buy a firearm to protect your family, possibly get a CCW when you're out and about. And the amount of people who use them for nefarious uses are tiny. So the natural conclusion of that is more guns, less crime. All right, wow, we've gone for an hour. Possibly a little more. Actually, let's see. See how long this has been going for. A little less than an hour, about 45 minutes. I'll be ending this a little early. I want to thank everyone for viewing. Thank all the viewers who are watching this after it was recorded. Please share this with friends and family. Spread it around, get more viewers. Please subscribe, ring the bell. Have a Merry Christmas. I will be doing shows Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So thank you for viewing and have a great Christmas holiday.